Betsy, what's the problem?
Karen, my mother-in-law, was grinning. You made the reservation, right? It seems like you didn't make one for me.
Of course. This is a family trip after all.
Huh?
Today is just for the family. The driver isn't part of the family, right? How can you not understand that?
At that moment, something inside me snapped. Oh, is that so? Then I guess I'll head home. I grabbed my belongings and headed for the entrance. My name is Betsy. I'm a 30-year-old office worker. I've been married to Lance for 3 years. We're currently living happily together. Lance works for a corporation since graduating from college. We both work, so we're financially stable, and I thought we could continue to live peacefully. Lance has an older brother, and his parents seem to have high expectations for him, being their eldest son. Lance, being the younger, seems to have more freedom. Because of this, my husband and I haven't needed to interact much with his parents, maintaining a comfortable distance. I've never had any issues with them, just visiting during Thanksgiving or Christmas. But they've never complained either. I think our peaceful life is partly because Lance views his family and our home as separate entities. However, one day, everything changed.
Betsy, when are you going to have kids?
Excuse me?
Hurry up and have a boy, will you? I'm counting on you.
This was an unexpected directive from Karen, out of the blue. I was shocked. Having children isn't something you can just do if you want to. Lance and I had been thinking about having kids, but it wasn't that simple. I didn't understand why Karen suddenly started saying these things to me, but I responded politely to avoid upsetting her. However, she kept calling, even during work hours. She never used to call so frequently. What was going on? I'd call back when I could, and she'd ask questions like,
"Are you pregnant yet? Are you trying to conceive?"
I thought she'd get bored and stop calling after a few days, but it only got worse. If I didn't return her calls, she'd leave a ton of messages. Ignoring them only led to more calls. If I were a stay-at-home wife, I might have received even more calls or visits. A chilling thought. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore and talked to Lance about it. At first, he seemed skeptical, but he was shocked when he saw the extensive calls and message history. Wow, that's crazy. I know, right? It's a bit overwhelming. Why this sudden change? Even Lance didn't know. But your parents live with your brother and his wife, right? Why is she contacting me so much? I'll ask my brother about it. And he called his brother. What? For real? Okay, alright. He's talking to him, looking very surprised. After hanging up, he was visibly surprised. So, what did your brother say? Turns out, he's divorced. No, you're kidding, right? I'm not. His wife left recently, and he moved out to live alone. I was stunned. They seemed like a happy couple. I never expected them to split up. Lance, deep in thought, muttered to himself. Maybe, now that my brother is single, my parents are looking to us for a future heir. Indeed, the timing of the divorce and Karen's calls coincided, and she kept mentioning having a boy. So now that they couldn't rely on the eldest son's family, they were turning their expectations to us. This was troubling. The thought of continuous contact from Karen was daunting. I wanted Lance to stand firm against any pressure from his parents. Karen's calls were relentless. Each time, I talked to my husband, reporting what she said and asking him to intervene. He agreed, but he seemed somewhat pleased, saying, "But Mom really has high hopes for us." This bothered me a bit. The stress from her frequent calls was mounting, so some days I turned off my phone to cope. Eventually, I got a budget smartphone for work, so I could keep my personal phone off during work hours. This reduced my stress at work, but my resentment towards her grew. If she continued like this, I considered blocking her number. When I started ignoring her daytime calls, she finally came to our house on a weekend. "Hey, Betsy, why aren't you answering your phone? Every time I call, it says the phone is off or not connected." "Oh, sorry about that. I've been turning off my phone because of how busy work is." "What's that all about? Are my calls more important than your work?" "No, work is obviously more important," I thought to myself. She berated me even though my husband was with me. "You know, if you just got pregnant already, I wouldn't have to call you so often. Do you understand that?" No. You can stop with your calls anytime you want. It's up to you," I thought to myself, but didn't say it out loud. It would be too much trouble. I was also hoping my husband would help out. If he spoke up firmly to his mother, maybe she would back off. But contrary to my expectations, he started agreeing with her. "You know, she's right. We need to get pregnant soon." "What?" "We need to fix the situation so Mom doesn't have to waste her efforts." What is he talking about? Why is he agreeing with her and encouraging this behavior? I couldn't understand his intentions. I continued to ignore calls from her. But then, on weekends, she would come over and team up with my husband to blame me. I started to wonder if it was my fault for not being able to have children. So, I worked hard at trying to conceive and even underwent fertility treatments. What if I still can't get pregnant? I worried as months went by, but then one day, I finally got pregnant. I immediately told Lance. He was thrilled, and my mother-in-law was overjoyed. I felt relieved and I had fulfilled my role. During my pregnancy, both Lance and Karen were very kind to me. The frequent calls and snide remarks stopped. They even showed concern for my health. However, when it turned out the baby was a girl, they both changed their attitudes drastically. "Honestly, you're just useless." "You have to give birth to a boy to be the successor. I'm seriously disappointed." I was stunned. Does it really matter if it's a boy or a girl? I was appalled by the sudden change in them. It completely snapped me out of the almost brainwashed state I was in and brought me back to the state before the pregnancy. These people are a bit off, I realized. But I gave birth to a daughter. Karen showed no interest, but my husband was happy, saying she was adorable. That was a relief. I was worried he might completely avoid her. If he had shown no interest in our daughter, I was prepared to leave him. But he did care for her, and I couldn't just take away her father. So, for now, I decided to continue our marriage. Karen didn't even say congratulations or give a baby gift. But as for her, I had already given up and didn't expect anything, so it didn't matter to me. A year passed quickly after my daughter was born. I finished my maternity and parental leave and returned to work. One evening, while having dinner with my husband, my phone rang. Ugh, it's your mother. Really? I wonder what she wants. I hadn't received calls from her since the incessant demands for a grandchild, so I was curious about her reason for calling, especially during the evening when I was with my husband. Hesitantly, I answered the phone. Good evening, Betsy. I could tell right away that her attitude was different from usual. I was thinking of going on a family trip next weekend. A sudden family trip? What is she up to this time? And I'd like you to drive. You know, since Lance doesn't have a license. So please. As I listened, she explained that the destination was a winery near enough to drive to. Sure, we could swing by the in-laws on the way, but it would be a bit of a detour. I've already made the reservations, so I'm counting on you, she said before hanging up. She's made reservations even though I haven't agreed to go yet? She's so presumptuous. What did she say? I told him about the family trip she was planning. Really? Awesome. He was thrilled. He used to keep a moderate distance from his parents, but lately he's been keen on attending these gatherings. Apparently, he's happy to be treated like the eldest son since his brother has cut ties with the family. I thought it didn't matter, but maybe it's important to him as a brother. Lance was happy, and if I refused to drive, Karen would probably be furious. So I decided to endure the trip for one night. Reluctantly, I agreed to go on the trip with my husband and his parents. We decided to leave our daughter with my parents. Then came the day of the trip. We had planned to leave at 6 a.m., pick up my in-laws by 9 a.m., and arrive at our destination by 10 a.m., per Karen's wishes to have time for sightseeing. I woke up at 5 a.m. to get ready, and my husband, still groggy, managed to wake up as well. Alright, let's get going, I said to myself, determined to make the best of the trip. After a 2.5-hour drive, we were finally nearing my in-laws' place. But I shouldn't have underestimated the Saturday morning traffic, especially since it was the start of a long weekend. We arrived at their house right at 9 a.m. When we rang the doorbell, it was my father-in-law, Scott, who answered. Oh, good. You made it. Sorry to trouble you, but my wife is still getting ready. Can you wait in the car? So, Karen, who had insisted on starting early to sightsee, wasn't even ready yet. We waited in the car for about 5 minutes before Karen finally appeared. Sorry about that, she said, not seeming sorry at all. My husband and Scott sat in the back, so she took the passenger seat. As I drove, she kept clicking her tongue and muttering complaints about my driving in a low voice, thinking the men couldn't hear. I chose not to react, just driving while she grumbled for over an hour. Soon, vineyards began to appear, signaling our arrival. It was just past 10 a.m. I was relieved we made it on time, but then Karen said something as we got out of the car. You said we'd be here by 10. And we're late. Her comment irritated me, considering the delay was entirely her fault. We spent the time before checking in, sightseeing, and eating, and even though she had me running errands like carrying bags and waiting in lines, I tried to stay positive, thinking I just had to endure this overnight trip. Finally, it was time to check in. Betsy, could you go check us in? Yes, of course. I thought once we checked in, there wouldn't be much else to do. At the reception desk, I said, I have a reservation at 3 p.m. for 5 people. Martinez. But something was wrong. The clerk looked confused. We have a reservation for 4 people. I instantly knew what had happened. Karen had made the reservation. The clerk, sensing something amiss, apologetically informed me.
We were told during the reservation that there would be only one female guest, aged 60.
Clearly, Karen had intentionally excluded me. I was embarrassed to have caused a scene at the hotel. I'm sorry. There seems to be a mistake with our reservation. Can we add another person? The clerk tried to help, but eventually said, I'm sorry, but we can't add another person to your room, and we're fully booked today. As I stood there wondering what to do, Karen approached.
Betsy, what's the problem?
She was smirking. You made the reservation, right? It seems like you didn't make one for me. I couldn't help but speak sharply due to her attitude. Then Karen said something unbelievable.
Of course. This is a family trip.
Huh?
Today is just for the family. The driver isn't family, right? How can you not understand that?
At that moment, something inside me snapped. I couldn't be part of a family with such people. Oh, I see. Then I'll go home.
Yes, you do that. A daughter-in-law who can't even bear a male heir has no place in our family.
She was smirking triumphantly. I grabbed my luggage and headed to the entrance. My husband and Scott looked surprised.
Hey, Betsy, what's going on?
It was Scott who came after me, not my husband. It seems Karen intentionally didn't make a reservation for me.
What? Is that true?
He was shocked. Well, it's something she would do, and since my husband is on her side, I'm going home. I glanced at the reception and saw my husband laughing and talking with Karen, seemingly unconcerned about me. My feelings for him had completely changed.
Wait a minute. What's going on?
He didn't know about her bullying. It's a long story. I'll send you some evidence on your phone later. I really don't want to see her face anymore today, so please, let me go. I said that and left the hotel. As I drove away, tears started to flow. I couldn't forgive them for their treatment and was angry with my husband for not defending me. I decided to take action against them and hurried home. I packed my bags and returned to my parents' house. They were surprised but furious when they heard the story. After calming down, I sent the audio evidence to Scott. The audio I sent to him included all the demeaning comments and harassment from his wife and son that I had recorded over time. It had their pressure about having a grandchild soon, Lance's agreement with it, and the vile words when they found out I was having a girl. It also included their rush for a boy after our daughter was born and the recent interaction at the hotel, which I had recorded. His response to the evidence was apologetic.
Thank you for the data, and I'm sorry for all the pain you've been through.
Things moved quickly after that. Lance rushed home and contacted me in a panic.
Hey, why is all your stuff gone?
I can't be with someone who sides with their mother instead of protecting me. Let's get a divorce. He was shocked by the mention of divorce.
Let's at least talk about this.
So I went back to our house for the first time in days, leaving my daughter with my parents. When I arrived, both Karen and Scott were there.
Betsy, you're the one who brought up divorce. What are you thinking? You think you can get away with that? I won't allow a divorce. If you want a divorce, have a son first.
She was as harsh as ever, losing her composure even in front of her husband.
Yeah, you have responsibilities, so no divorce.
I was beyond anger. I was just appalled. It doesn't matter what you want. I'm prepared to fight this through mediation or whatever it takes. I have evidence of your mother's bullying and the fact that you never protected me. This is more than enough for a divorce, and I might even claim alimony. My statement made Lance and Karen panic.
What? Alimony? Let's not make a big deal out of this.
Well, it is a big deal. Do you have any idea how much I've suffered? You'll never understand the pain of not being protected by your own husband. Anyway, I'm set on getting a divorce. At that point, Karen, not wanting to lose, turned to her husband for support.
Say something to her.
Scott then spoke up calmly.
Well said, Bessie. Be strong for your daughter. Leave my son and stupid wife to me.
Wait, what are you saying?
Dad, what are you talking about? Quiet. I'm disappointed in both of you. Aren't you ashamed of your petty bullying again?
What do you mean, again?
I've been told before by our eldest son's wife about bullying from you. They said they'd resolve it, so I didn't intervene. But now you've started bullying our younger son's wife. I won't forgive this. I want a divorce.
What? Are you serious?
Of course. Unless I'm cutting ties with you. What? Dad, why? I'm disappointed in you also. A man who can't cherish his wife is not my son. Reflect on what you've done.
Both Karen and Lance were devastated by Scott's declaration of divorce and disownment. With Scott's help, I was able to divorce Lance and receive alimony and child support. Karen, having been a housewife for years, couldn't find work and ended up moving in with Lance, who struggled financially due to the alimony and child support. I felt they got what they deserved. Later, Scott contacted me again, saying Lance's brother wanted to talk. At the cafe, I met not only him, but also his wife. It turned out they had pretended to divorce to escape from Karen, and continued living together, a plan proposed by Scott. I was glad to know they hadn't actually separated. Now, I often meet with my former brother-in-law, his wife, and Scott for meals, always bringing my daughter along. Scott is delighted to see his granddaughter. Being a working mother, I manage well as a single parent, enjoying a peaceful life free from the stress of my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law. I look forward to working hard and watching my daughter grow up.
My husband has left me to take care of our newborn twins all by myself. Even when I was pregnant, he barely acknowledged how tough it was for me. Instead, he said something like this: "I've got to go on a business trip for a week soon." That's going to be tough. I'm already swamped with taking care of the twins. What can I do though? It's my job. I had a feeling then that my husband was hiding something. Sure enough, when I looked into it, I discovered he was betraying me. After seeing him off on his trip, I muttered to myself, "Hope you make it back safely." My name is Janice. I'm 36 years old, and I work from home. Right now, it's just my husband Thomas and me living in our apartment. Thomas is 5 years younger than me, and we met at our favorite cafe. We both had a love for reading. He seemed interested in a book I was reading and struck up a conversation one day. I really liked him. He was bright and friendly. Though he was younger than me, so I didn't initially see him as a romantic prospect, but he was forward about liking me and actively pursued me. Eventually, his persistence won me over, and we got married when I was 30. We've lived peacefully as a couple, never having any major arguments. But there was one thing bothering me. We were having trouble having a child. We started trying for a baby in our second year of marriage, but there were no signs of pregnancy. We went to the hospital together for fertility tests. Turns out, Thomas had no issues. It was me who had a condition that made it difficult to conceive. Undergoing fertility treatments was physically and mentally taxing, not to mention expensive and stressful. I started getting the brunt of Thomas's frustrations. Since I was part of the reason we couldn't have kids, I didn't resist him. Tired of the treatments, he suggested one day, "Why don't we just live as a couple, just two of us?" But I couldn't give up on having his child. "Please, just a little more cooperation. I really want a child with you. I'll give up if it doesn't happen before I turn 40. He reluctantly agreed to my desperate plea. So we continued the treatments, and I finally got pregnant, and it was twin girls, twice the joy. My parents, my friends, and in-laws were all thrilled about the pregnancy. I was over the moon. I was determined to raise these kids right. I hoped this would also improve my shaky relationship with my husband. I was daydreaming about spending time with him and our children. Childcare was new to me, but I thought I'd be fine since I had done some prep work. But taking care of twins was harder than I expected. I can only admit I underestimated it. Everyone says the real work starts after the baby is born, and they were right. Caring for twins is obviously twice the work. Feeding, diaper changes, baths, putting them to sleep, all needed for two. Feeding a single baby requires about 8 to 10 sessions, but with twins, it's 16 to 20. And they don't always want to feed at the same time. When I'm feeding one and the other starts crying and I attend to her, the first one gets upset. It's a constant cycle. Diaper changes aren't synced either. Sometimes one would soil their diaper in the middle of changing the others. This means more time spent getting fresh clothes and diapers ready. And then there's the spit up, sweat, frequent diaper leaks. I had to change their clothes often. Just as I'd finished changing them, they'd have an accident. And even my clothes get dirty. Changing and washing their clothes took so much time. The cost of raising twins is also double. Diapers, milks, clothes. It's a bit overwhelming. They also cried a lot at night, so I hardly get any sleep. I would hold them because they cry for a long time, but even then, they wouldn't sleep. Even if I managed to calm one down, the other would start crying, waking the first one up again. I was exhausted every day, barely getting any sleep. I had to take a break from my work-from-home job to focus on childcare. My mom works, so she couldn't help, and my mother-in-law lives too far away. They say you should rest after giving birth, but that wasn't an option for me. I had no choice but to struggle through it alone. As for Thomas, he was no help at all. To be exact, he was uncooperative with childcare from the start. When he saw our newborns, he just laughed and said, "They look like monkeys. Not cute at all." And to me, exhausted from childbirth, he joked, "They look ugly. Are you sure they're mine?" He dumped all the housework and childcare on me, using work as an excuse. It was fine when we didn't have kids, but now with newborn twins, it was too much. Even when I asked for help, he'd say, "I don't know how to do it, so I can't." I didn't know how to do it either. It was my first time. He seemed indifferent to our twins' care. I tried to talk to him about it, but it was always in vain. "Thomas, I know you're busy with work, but I'm still recovering from childbirth, and childcare is toughest now. You're a father, too. Can't you be a little more responsible? Could you maybe come home early and help out, even if it's just for a while?" Then he got really defensive. "What? Acting like you're the queen. You get to relax at home because I work hard outside. Don't you get that? And now you want me tired from work to do childcare and housework? You've got to be joking." "I'd like to work too, but I can't right now. And it's not like I'm relaxing at home. I'm sleep deprived every day. Is it too much to ask for a little help with housework and childcare?" No matter how much I asked, he just wouldn't agree, and our conversations got us nowhere. Finally, he threw a tantrum and ended the conversation forcibly. "Enough already. I can't even relax when I come home. I've been dragged around by your infertility and whims for too long, and just when I thought I was free from fertility treatments, this happens. I should have never had kids in the first place." With that, he stormed off into another room. Hearing his words, I just hung my head. Maybe my desire for children was indeed selfish. Thomas, unlike me, didn't desperately want children, and in hindsight was reluctant about fertility treatments. I remember him growing colder around the time my morning sickness got worse. If I neglected household chores or a bedridden due to illness, he would yell at me like a madman. Feeling guilty for dragging him into fertility treatments, I just silently endured his verbal abuse. I thought maybe things would change for the better once the kids were born, but instead, things just got worse. Our marriage quickly grew cold, and we started avoiding each other at home. Then one day, he dropped a bombshell. Despite being in the middle of caring for 1-week-old twins, he said he had to go on a week-long business trip. It's an important job, so I can't mess it up. I'll be turning off my phone during the trip, so don't contact me, not even through WhatsApp or texts. Can't someone else take your place? I am still recovering from childbirth and can't move around much. What am I supposed to do if something happens to the kids? He wouldn't listen to my desperate pleas. What? Don't be so needy. I have work. It can be helped. He dismissed my requests, using work as a shield, but I could tell he was lying. He might not realize it, but he rubs under his nose when he lies. It was just a woman's intuition, but I felt I couldn't overlook this lie about this business trip. In the past, I had ignored his minor lies about pinching pennies or saying he was going shopping when he was actually going out to drink. But this time was different. It concerned the care of our twins. What kind of lie he was telling this time? I knew confronting him then would only lead to more lies. So I pretended to give up on stopping his trip. In the meantime, until he left, I was busy investigating something. And I hit the jackpot. My intuition was right. He was hiding a huge secret. I'll never forgive him. I'll make sure he gets what he deserves. A few days later, Thomas, humming a tune and in high spirits, said to me as he was getting ready to leave, "All right, I'm off on my business trip." He was unusually cheerful for someone just going to work, but I didn't comment on it. "Have a good trip. Hope you make it back safely." "Huh? Did you say something?" "No, nothing. Just be careful. Don't get into an accident." He didn't seem to hear my last words as he left the house, looking quite pleased with himself. He was blissfully unaware of the hell that awaited him. Enjoy yourself while you can, I thought to myself. He won't have that luxury when he comes back. I decided to prepare what would come after his return. I was looking forward to seeing his reaction in a week. A week passed and he came home, but instead of the upbeat mood he left in, he looked utterly exhausted. His face covered in bruises, his clothes dirty and disheveled. "I'm home. Oh man, I'm so tired. There's no place like home." "Oh my, what happened to your face? Look at those bruises." "Oh, I just fell, that's all." He was rubbing under his nose again, lying even at this point, unaware that I already knew the truth. He was still so naive. Then he noticed something was off in the house. "Hey, what's with all these cardboard boxes? Are we moving or something?" Indeed, the house was filled with boxes containing my belongings. To his question, I replied coldly, "The kids and I are moving out. I don't plan on coming back here." "What? What are you talking about?" "I can't stay with a husband who lied about a business trip to go on a cheating vacation while I'm at home with 1-week-old twins. I'm filing for divorce and leaving." He looked shocked, his face turning pale, and then he started yelling at me. "Stop with the nonsense. This just because I didn't help with the kids is too much. Do you even have any proof that I cheated?" In response, I showed him a video. It showed him discussing his trip with his mistress. I'm really looking forward to the trip tomorrow. Don't worry, I fooled my wife. Did you manage to talk to your husband, Sarah? Oh, that's great. Seeing the video, he went pale. When did you... I thought you were at the hospital when I made that call. I never expected the camera I was setting up to catch something like this. After all, it was intended for a different use. Actually, this footage was from a baby monitor camera I had secretly bought with my personal savings. I was anxious about being away from the kids, so I had installed cameras around the room. I thought he would make a fuss about it being a waste of money. I had heard about a woman named Sarah from him before. There's this cute new employee named Sarah, but she's married, too bad. After seeing the footage from the baby monitor, I called Thomas's company to confirm his business trip. It turned out he had taken leave instead. On the phone, I asked, "Could you please put me through Sarah Johnson?" As expected, the response was, "Sarah Johnson is also on leave." So, the affair was indeed with Sarah, his junior colleague. I searched Thomas's study and found a memo with staff contacts, then called Sarah's house. Her husband answered, and when I explained the situation, he was furious. It seemed there were already suspicions about her infidelity, and he had been about to investigate. I asked him to keep it a secret that he had heard it from me. The day before Thomas was due to return from his business trip, I received a call from Sarah's husband explaining what happened. Apparently, Thomas had brazenly gone to pick up Sarah from her house and encountered her husband. He beat up Thomas, which explained the bruises all over his face. He couldn't go home right away and had to kill time in a motel before he finally returned. He stood in front of me, speechless, his mouth opening and closing. Then someone burst in. "Mom, Dad, what are you doing here?" Entering the living room were my furious in-laws, their faces red with anger. I had also informed them and shown them the baby monitor footage. My father-in-law, in a rage, punched Thomas in the face, adding another bruise. "You stupid son! Cheating, what a despicable act! You're disowned!" Then, more shouting from behind. "I'm taking my daughter and grandkids back home. What a terrible man you are!" Absolutely dreadful. "Janice, you called your parents too?" Actually, I had also called my parents to help with the move. My mother hugged the kids, glaring coldly at Thomas. My mother-in-law, tears in her eyes, slapped him and scolded, "You stupid son!" Surrounded by both sets of parents, his face was a sight to behold. Then I dropped another bombshell. "Oh yeah, I also contacted your company's president. They already know that you used your leave days for your affair." Hearing this, he yelled at me. "Are you kidding me? What have you done?" My father, raising his fist, yelled back at him. "How dare you act like this after cheating? You have a problem with my daughter?" I'm sorry." Cornered, he began to plead with me. "Please, Janice, the affair was a moment of madness. Don't divorce me. I'll leave Sarah and help out with housework and childcare from now on." His desperate pleas didn't move me at all. They were just a nuisance. I retorted sharply. "What are you saying now? You weren't there for me when I needed you most. Do you have any idea how hard it was to take care of twins and do housework alone? And you were on a vacation with your mistress. You really have some nerve." "I know. I'm truly sorry, I am." "No excuses. I'm done with you. I can't be your wife anymore. Don't come near me and the kids ever again. I'll be demanding alimony and child support, just so you know." I left the apartment with everyone, leaving him behind. Later, Thomas and I divorced. I demanded alimony for his affair with Sarah and, of course, child support from him. He received a stern warning from his company, but resigned because he couldn't stand the disdainful looks from his colleagues. He ended up with a debt of $100,000 from the alimony and child support payments to me and Sarah's husband. Now he's working himself to exhaustion in manual labor day and night. Sarah was also divorced by her husband, left her job, and returned to her parents' home in the countryside. She's working in a factory, monitored due to the alimony demands from her husband and me. As for me, I moved back to my parents' home and I'm taking care of the twins with my mother's help. Just watching the twins grow up healthy makes me happy. They are loved by the entire family and seem very happy. I'm determined to work hard for the sake of these children's future.
Pregnancy isn't really an illness, is it? Do you think someone will come to help if you pretend to be sick like that?
My husband throws heartless words at me as I suffer from morning sickness, even though he has never experienced it himself. In the midst of my struggles to be understood, divine punishment befell my husband, who had consistently neglected me. My name is Megan. I met Taylor, my husband, at work and we got married. He is an office worker who continues to work without retiring. In the 3rd year of marriage, finally I became pregnant with our long-awaited first child. On the day I found out about the pregnancy, I promptly informed my husband. Taylor, we're going to be parents. Upon hearing this, my husband's eyes widened.
Wait, seriously? Me, a father?
I went to the hospital today, and I'm already in the 8th week of pregnancy.
Wow, seriously? I'm so happy. Thank you, Megan.
He hugged me tightly and promised,
I'll do my best.
A few days later, we also reported the news to my in-laws. My in-laws always tried not to put pressure on me, saying, children are a gift. I wanted to report to these kind people as soon as possible.
Thank you, Megan. To think I'll see my grandchild's face so soon. I'm really happy. Right, wife?
Yes, that's right. For Taylor to become a father, it feels like a dream. Thank you so much.
Our in-laws shed tears of joy. My mother-in-law, who had given birth, was especially concerned about my body on a regular basis, asking me if my body was fine. A kind husband and wonderful in-laws. I'm sure we'll live happily ever after. That's what I thought. 2 weeks after the pregnancy was confirmed, suddenly, something strange started happening to my body. I feel nauseous. Could this be morning sickness? Whether asleep or awake, the queasy sensation persisted, and I was constantly attacked by nausea, even at work. Perhaps because of that, I couldn't eat properly and my health deteriorated rapidly. Although I had planned to work diligently until maternity leave, in this condition, it was impossible to continue. With that in mind, I decided to discuss it with my husband. Taylor, can I talk to you for a moment?
What's up?
Actually, due to morning sickness, my body is really struggling. I'm thinking of resigning from work before taking maternity leave.
Really? If that's what you've decided, it's fine, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Surprisingly, his quick approval left me somewhat taken aback. Perhaps he respected my feelings that much? Originally, my retirement after childbirth was already planned, so maybe he saw this as a slightly accelerated version. Since my parents' health was not good, and they lived far away, there were no plans for me to return home for childbirth. Although there were anxieties about the first childbirth, I believed that with my husband by my side, we could overcome anything. So I spent my days thinking that way. 1 month later, it took time for the handover, but I successfully resigned from my job. Now all that was left was to live a relaxed life until childbirth. However, my health didn't improve at all. At first, I tried to do as much housework as possible, but as my belly grew, even that became challenging. Taylor, sorry. Starting tomorrow, is it okay if we just have bread for breakfast? When I asked my husband this, he turned around with a surprised expression.
Huh? Why? I give you money for living expenses, right?
No, it's not about the household budget. It's just that morning sickness is really taking a toll on me. Waking up in the morning is really tough. I'll buy the bread so you can have it as you like.
So you mean I have to prepare it myself?
Huh? You want to take your time in the morning, so I prepare it myself, eat, and go to work. Is that it? It's not like that at all.
I can't believe this. I'm working hard every day to provide for both of us, and now you've become a housewife thinking you don't have to handle the housework.
Saying that, my husband left the living room. Why? Why did he speak like that? I didn't choose to be in this situation willingly. I'm enduring these difficult days to raise our baby. Suppressing emotions with nowhere to go, I cried alone. I tried to convince myself that someday things would get better, even if it felt forced. Time passed, and I finally entered the 9th month of pregnancy. In the midst of swelling emotions, I desperately continued to manage the household chores. Sorry, Taylor, can you take out the trash today? One morning, I called out to my husband as he was leaving for work.
Huh? Isn't taking out the trash something you always do yourself?
Yes, but today's trash is really heavy. My stomach has been aching since the morning, and it's tough today. Can you please help just for today? At that moment, unbelievable words came out of my husband's mouth.
Hey, Megan, you're a housewife, right? Who do you think you are?
Huh? What do you mean, who do you think you are? What was he asking me? Without waiting for my answer, he continued.
I've been thinking, pregnant women aren't really sick, right? So why are you acting like you're in such pain?
Pretending to be in pain? What are you talking about? I'm really struggling.
So you think by acting like you're feeling unwell, someone will come to help you, huh? Megan, I never thought you'd be that cunning. I'm a bit shocked.
Wait a minute. It's really not like that. Certainly, I might not be sick, but my body is in pain, and my stomach is so heavy.
Let me be clear. You're overly pampering yourself just because you're pregnant. Lately, the cooking and cleaning have been slacking off, and for a wife, you're getting pretty dangerous, aren't you? Asking your husband to take out the trash before work is outrageous.
Saying that, my husband left for work. I can feel that my surprise gradually turned into anger. Who do you think you are? I'm raising our child in my stomach, I'm not asking for sympathy, but couldn't there be a little consideration? With this incident, I stopped relying on my husband. Even though there was a concern about something happening to our unborn child, I thought it was better than arguing with my husband and feeling uncomfortable. Afterwards, I managed the household chores to the extent that it was reasonable, and a month later I safely gave birth to our daughter. Our newborn daughter was truly adorable, enough to make the pain of childbirth disappear. Even though my husband didn't help at all during the pregnancy, he did show affection towards our daughter. But he truly only dotes. He never changes diapers, feeds milk, or soothes her when she cries.
There. Melissa is so cute. Ah, she smiled. You're just like me. You've got the most adorable eyes in the world. Huh? She feels like crying for some reason. Hey, Megan, let me pass her.
When our daughter is in a good mood, he holds her, dotes on her, and if she starts fussing, he hands her over to me. He pays no attention, even when I'm doing housework. By having our daughter handed over to me according to my husband's convenience, the efficiency of housework is deteriorating rapidly. On top of that, due to feeding every 3 hours, I can hardly get a decent sleep. While awake, I'm always in a daze, using up my energy similar to when I was pregnant. One day, something happened. Even on this day, while nursing our daughter, I was about to enter the bedroom when I received a message on my smartphone saying, "Come here for a moment." Come here for a moment? And it's not the next room. I'm struggling with sleep deprivation and a headache, diligently nursing, and despite all that, feeling frustrated in my mind, without waiting for my response, a message arrived stating, "Quickly." Taking advantage of the moment when our daughter fell asleep, I headed to the room next door where my husband was. When I opened the door, my husband was wrapped up in a blanket on the bed. As soon as he saw my face, he grimaced and said,
You know, my head hurts. Bring some water.
"Isn't it because you were drinking late last night?" I sighed in disgust, and my husband retorted in an irritated voice,
Are you trying to say it's a hangover? That's not it. It's definitely some kind of illness. Hurry up and bring me water.
"What's with that way of speaking? Why are you always so high and mighty?"
Huh? What about you? How can you not bring water when your own husband is suffering? That's the worst.
At that moment, my love for my husband quickly faded within me. This is ridiculous, using me only when you're in pain. Even during my pregnancy, you were so cold. If it's come to this, I'll tell him all the resentment I've been holding back. I took out my smartphone and called my in-laws. "Oh, sorry to bother you so suddenly. Is this you, Mom? Taylor is complaining about something really serious." Yes. "He's making a fuss about being sick. Can you come over?" My husband looked at me with a confused expression. After hanging up the phone, I said to my husband, "Your parents are coming over now."
Calling my parents as being so dramatic.
Dramatic? You're the one who made a fuss about being sick, right?
Even so, there's no need for the parents to come. I just wanted you to bring me water.
If you wanted water, couldn't you have done it yourself?
What's with that way of talking? Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are? That's my line. Suddenly raising my voice, my husband flinched.
Don't shout like that. It echoes in my head, you know?
So what? You never cared for me when I was in pain. Why do I have to care for you when you're in pain? Isn't that fair?
Well,
I won't let you forget it. During morning sickness, you ignored me, even though I asked for a little help. To make matters worse, you insulted me with, "Who do you think you are?" even though you're a housewife.
no, that is...
You're the one acting high and mighty. I've been desperately raising your child in my womb for 10 months.
Calm down, Megan. Pregnancy is over, right? There's no use barking back now.
Smirking, my husband continued to stare at me. It's over? Who said it was over? Who said it was only during pregnancy?
Huh?
Even after Melissa was born, right? As usual, you don't help with housework, and you leave Melissa's care to me. You're just pampering, and in the end, you're not doing anything, right?
What? That's not true, is it? I properly take care of Melissa.
Properly what? You'd like to say that you're taking care of your child, but all you're doing is giving Melissa a little attention when she's in a good mood. When she is about to cry, you push her to me, and you don't do anything with diapers or milk. Where's the childcare in that? Tell me, okay?
Well, that is...
As I confronted my silent husband, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, my concerned parents-in-laws were standing there. After guiding them to the bedroom, I told them, "Mom, Dad, I think it's rude to say this right after you came, but I want to divorce Taylor."
Huh?
All three, except for me, opened their mouths in unison.
Megan, divorce? You're lying. Why?
I explained to my husband once again, who still didn't understand his own faults at this point. Why? You still don't get it? During pregnancy after childcare started, you've never once comforted me, have you?
That's not true.
Pregnancy is not an illness. Being pregnant doesn't mean you can be too dependent. Didn't you say those things to me? Even when I was suffering from morning sickness, you didn't help. Not even with taking out the trash. And even after Melissa was born, you didn't cooperate with changing diapers or preparing milk. How can I continue our marriage with someone like that?
Wait, don't say that in front of my parents.
At that moment, my mother-in-law, who had been listening, forcefully intervened.
Explain what just happened, Taylor. What Megan just said, is it true? Well, that is...
Answer clearly. Did you really say such a horrible thing to Megan when she was pregnant? Like pregnant women are being too dependent?
No, it's not like that. Megan pretends to be sick on purpose.
Pretending to be sick? There's individual variation in pregnancy symptoms, and some people suffer so much that they can't help it. Do you understand that?
I know about morning sickness, but isn't it strange not to be able to do housework?
Just as he was about to desperately argue back, my father-in-law, who had been silent until then, muttered, "Disgusting." My mother-in-law started wincing and shaking, and she started cutting in on my husband, who was always making excuses.
Why don't you cut it out? You're so arrogant, even though you haven't experienced it yourself. Do you even understand how childbirth is a life-threatening act?
My husband, who probably didn't expect to be scolded so much by his own mother, remained frozen with his mouth open. Despite this, my mother-in-law continued without mercy.
How can you behave like that toward Megan, who carried your child for almost a year? As a mother, I'm embarrassed for you. I can't believe that she gave birth to such a beautiful daughter, but you've never even fed her, let alone changed her diaper. That's a disqualification as a father. Mom, wait.
I won't wait for you. You're the one who made Megan wait all this time, aren't you? If Megan wishes for a divorce, have the decency to listen for once, you foolish son. With the final blow from his mother, my husband finally gave in. I then went to get the divorce papers and had my husband sign them in front of my in-laws. Thus ended my married life. After the divorce was finalized, I had to return to my parents' home. When I left, my in-laws bowed to me repeatedly.
Megan, my stupid son, I'm so sorry.
I know an apology won't make it go away, but I'm sorry, I really am. Dad, Mom, please raise your heads. I can't thank you both enough for being so good to me, and I'm sorry it had to turn out this way.
No, it's okay. I think this is better for you, Megan and Melissa. That's right. You can always come back and see us again when you feel like it.
Yes, of course. Thank you for all your help. After expressing my gratitude for the last time, I parted ways with my in-laws. Even now, after some time has passed since the divorce, I'm still in contact with my in-laws. It seems that my in-laws have no contact with my ex-husband either. Since my ex-husband and I got married through work, when the reason for the divorce spread within the company, he became an outcast in no time. Taylor apparently didn't help at all with childcare, and his wife got fed up.
Even before that, it seems he didn't do anything during pregnancy, you know.
He was striking poses like, I'm a hands-on dad, though.
Huh? Really? No wonder she left him.
In this awkward atmosphere, my ex-husband reluctantly continues his job. Well, he probably doesn't have the option to quit his job. After all, he has to keep paying child support until our daughter reaches adulthood. Although it means taking away a father figure from our daughter, I don't regret it. I'm sure Melissa will understand when she grows up. From now on, I plan to raise our daughter well, with the help of both parents.